Hi everyone. How's everyone doing today? So I'm Amber with the Amber Show, and I have some special guests here, including Chrissy, our co-host. So let's start by introducing and introductions of this guy sitting next to me.
Great. My name is Steve.
Hi, Steve.
Hi, my name is Steve Chen, one of the co-founders of YouTube. Here back in Taiwan as of 2 years ago. Originally born here. Spent about 35 years there in the US, about 20 years there in Silicon Valley. And then really, I think after having done startups, investments, venture capital, a lot of fundraising, advising in Silicon Valley, now coming back to exploring the next segment of my life here in Taiwan.
That's great. We really welcome you and happy that, your next 25 years are going to be here in Taiwan, if not more. And what about you, Jack?
Hi, my name is Jack Fu. I'm one of the co-founders of Draco Capital. I've moved back to Taiwan ever since 2010, and we recently started a business with Steve Chen last year, and it's a hedge fund business, and we're pretty excited to use AI to do investments for our own investments.
That sounds like some very serious stuff that you guys have going on. Very cool. And I think there's a lot of firsts here that we should get out of the way. So this is our first recording of our first podcast of the first Amber Show with Steve's first podcast or first Taiwan podcast.
No, podcast.
Oh, wow.
Period.
Steve's usually in front of the camera. So now he's a podcast personality. I think, Jack, your first podcast?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
And also,
mine too. Okay.
And also, Steve is the first person to get the first Taiwan Gold Card.
Yeah, that was received 2 years ago. Gold Card program was launched 3 years ago because we just renewed it last week, and it's a 3-year program. It was started before all of COVID, which is when everybody started using and adopting the Gold Card and actually applying for it. They never expected the numbers that they're seeing now. But at the time, it was to try to see how to incentivize people, especially Taiwanese Americans that have accomplished something overseas, whether that's in the US, but that's also in Hong Kong, Singapore. There are a lot of places where Taiwanese have done something and they're looking at ways of, especially as their grandparents, their parents, their family members are still here in Taiwan. They're trying to come back, but they're trying to incentivize them. And so things like residency, things like health insurance. And they came up with this program that was launched 3 years ago that was exactly for this purpose. And they needed somebody that was living outside of Taiwan, that was born in Taiwan, to want to come back and accept this Gold Card. So it was 3 years ago when I came back originally to visit Taiwan, it was just a photo shoot and a few interviews just to receive the Gold Card. I never thought back in 2018 when I got this thing that I was going to ever use it. It was more of a, here, give back to Taiwan. They're inviting me back and this is something for the country. But fast forward by just less than a year, this was in 2019, packed up our bags from Silicon Valley after 20 years there, brought 2 kids, wife, just all moved to, and this is before COVID started. This is just trying to get out of Silicon Valley and really using this card. And since then, over 1,000, over 2,000 of them have been printed and more.
You were a trendsetter. Were you also advised on things that you would need to make this move happen, or did that? Were you a part of the advisory for this card, or are you just sort of the first test monkey?
I think a combination of both. Yeah, before the Gold Card was created, really it was a program that I had only learned about the history of. It was something it's working with the multiple ministries because when you apply for the Gold Card, one of the first questions you have to answer is, what is your background? Is it entrepreneurship? Is it technology? Is it economy? What profession are you coming from? And depending on how you answer that question, it goes into the various ministries within the Taiwanese government. And so, depending on how you answer that question, different qualifications apply, different criteria apply. And when I received it, I was obviously on the technology side, and I was the first one to receive it. They told me about this card after all those decisions were made. But it was after coming in with that card was when I was more engaged with the actual government, with the ministries, because it was it's like a little bit of a test rabbit, right? To be able to actually have to give them back the answers as to, it's hard to move to Taiwan. There's a lot of things that's aside from just the card, aside from getting through immigration in the airport, there's a heck of a lot more that you need to do to really move, to abandon everything that you have on the other side of the Pacific, and then to restart everything that you have.
And how do you like the life in Taiwan so far? Because the weather and the food is so different. Because I'm from LA, and like the weather is so different from there. So I know like you just got here and you cannot get used to the lifestyle and also the food around here. So how do you adapt well? I mean, like,
it's hard I think, especially if you've grown up in the US,
yes,
to try to make that move. I'll say at the high level, like, there's no way the first week of anybody moving here if they've lived their lives in the US, moving to Taiwan, is it any easier? But I would say you fast forward that by 3-4 weeks after you've learned how to kind of replace what you're used to with the solutions here, then things become, I think, better, easier, a lot faster, a lot more efficient. But yeah, like the first week we were here, there was an earthquake. The weather was over 100 degrees. There was leaking gas out of the stove top. Like we weren't getting hot water out of our showers, and and you don't have a bank account set up, and in order to set up
handyman.
all these things, you need to actually to try to set up to get a cell phone service. You need to get a bank account. To get a bank account, you need credit card, and you need to be able to speak and read and write and sign your name in Chinese.
Oh, so 你的中文怎么样？
差不多8岁的，
可爱的中文。
I'm just wondering because I'm here with this strange half breeder passport where I have a passport but I don't have like the 居留, I don't have like residency. So with the gold card, is it easy to set up like a bank account and a business? Because for foreigners, that's one of the most difficulties, setting up their business if they want to start something here. So is that like something that they put in place where foreigners with the gold card, it's easy to do that and hire people?
Again, I think two answers to that. I think like it is easier, but relative to just about any country in Asia that we were looking at also potentially moving to, it is still much harder. Like if you want to set up a local business here in Taiwan, it's just difficult to set it up completely locally without establishing something in the bridge to the US in some way, especially if the end goal for these companies, if the end goal for the business is to target a global audience. It's hard to do it if everything is in Taiwan for legal reasons, for IP reasons, for just fundraising reasons. You're not getting a lot of investors that are writing checks to companies that are established in Taiwan.
So I know a lot of people from the Bay Area that are here kind of hiding out, but I think you and Jack have both been sort of key figures or role models for like the Taiwan people who want to get interested in startups and finance. What are some infos or tips to these sort of next generation Taiwanese? How can we build these or help these Taiwanese startups? Jack or
Well, pretty much for people starting businesses in Taiwan, Steve and I, we've been talking about pretty much to focus their market outside of Taiwan, not just Taiwan, because a lot of these startups, primarily they try to focus too much on the Taiwan market, which is not a big market. So for those successful businesses we've seen, most of these businesses focused outside of Taiwan, whether it be just mainly in U.S. or Japan, Singapore, or other markets besides Taiwan. So I think the first thing, it's just the market, who are you trying to reach? And once you establish, where you're going, and then perhaps set up an office, maybe in the U.S. and SF and Silicon Valley, So I think market first, and then everything else, kind of goes around that.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, even you look at the success that Taiwan's had in the last few decades in the OEM market and the semiconductor markets, and it's done well. And it's the main reason for that is that, look, the same semiconductors are going to work, the same transistors are going to work, whether it's inside Taiwan or outside of Taiwan. But once you start getting into more closer proximity to the end consumer, to the end user, then you're going to have to start understanding what the behavioral patterns of your target audience is in order to be successful in those markets. And so I think that one of the after coming back, I think one of the challenges that you see many Taiwanese American entrepreneurs in Silicon Valley being able to overcome, yet for some reason the local Taiwanese entrepreneurs here in Taiwan have difficulty in expanding to the global markets, is to be able to understand what that target consumer, what that behavior is. Like, it's going to be difficult to be able to solve a problem for somebody when you don't know really what that lifestyle, what those problems are. And so I think that one of the great things about this period right now is that you have all these people that are coming back with COVID, and many of them, it's not the actual individual contributor levels that are coming back. These are the entrepreneurs. These are the past successes. These are the people that have successfully sold, raised capital, and they've already done something. Many of them are actually still operating full companies. They're just boarding planes and then they're establishing headquarters here in Taiwan.
Mm-hmm. Yes. I think one of the good things that I've noticed, because, I spent a lot of time in San Francisco, and I just love the mentality there where you run into someone on the street. Like, a friend of mine was like, oh, that Kevin Lin guy who's in Taiwan, he invested in my company just because I gave him a free cigarette. And, they're so reachable, and they're really like offering their time and, their skill set. I think that that's what Taiwan needs, and that's what is going to really change like how, the whole idea of being a mentor and being someone to look after. Do you feel the same, that they're being really open with their time and with their skill set? Do you also see this?
Well, I certainly see that there's a huge abundance of Taiwanese Americans that are coming back with, I'm going to say, partially that driver, that motivator for them to be here in Taiwan is that Taiwanese part of them, that they do want to help out. And they're bringing that whatever knowledge, whatever connections, the connections with VCs and all these things that are key to, I think, success in Silicon Valley, that, to be brutally honest, that just Taiwan doesn't have any of that prior to, say, 2019. It's just, the connections to the general partners in the top VCs on Sand Hill Road. It's hard to find people in Taiwan with those connections. But now all of a sudden you have people that are working with these people all the time, all here, all very accessible. And so I think we're going to see what's going to be happening, but I think it's a pretty exciting period this year as we start seeing more and more of these people establishing themselves and feeling at home here in Taiwan.
So yeah, let's talk more on like the big trending word of last year, the whole COVID situation. Like, a friend of mine, yesterday she was like, I'm flying to SF to get my vaccines. Do you feel that Taiwan is still going to be a leader after people are able to move back, or their jobs are calling them back to the Bay Area? Do you feel people leaving? Do you feel people are staying? Is this just a temporary thing? What are your ideas, both of you?
Well, I mean, sadly, I think there's not a lot of incentive for these people to stay in Taiwan outside of the safety, the umbrella from COVID, right? I think the majority of the people that I know that have packed up everything that they've, for the last couple decades, have built in Silicon Valley, that have built in the US, and just packing it up and coming to Taiwan in 2-3 weeks, packing very little bags, it's because of COVID. And I think once you feel completely safe to go back, like they're still going to virtual schools. They're still working from remote in these offices. They're not really settling down in Taiwan yet. But at the same time, I do wish, and I think there's an opportunity here where if what we as a country can provide to these people as they're here, to make them feel more at home, to feel more gravitated and actually planting their seeds here. There are things that, just like it takes more than a few weeks to really get established here, but if you really get established, if you really start going to schools, and if you really get used to the lifestyle here, maybe there is an opportunity. Not everybody, but a percentage of the people, I think, will actually stay.
I think, Jack, since you've been here, quite a while, and you have your family and things here, like, I think this is basically saying the next step of creating like a mature ecosystem. What else do you think is needed for these people to adopt and to really like choose Taiwan in the long run for the next 25 plus years?
Well, I think we were just talking about this during lunch, me and Steve. I think the window. We do feel that the window is closing soon. As COVID cases go down, around the world, people will start moving back to the U.S., moving back to where they came from. So we have to build the incentives for them to stay in Taiwan. Whether it be having a satellite office in Taiwan or creating more opportunities for Taiwan, and to create an environment for them to start their business easily, because it's from my experience with Steve's experience, I came back over 10 years ago, and it's pretty much the same today. It's really difficult to open bank accounts, even brokerage accounts. It's especially when you don't read or write Chinese, and then having to go to the bank and write your Chinese name, which I had to pretty much practice to open the accounts. And a lot of these pretty much these regulations to just open any accounts, whether it be to have a cell phone,
Yeah, I mean, just even that.
Yeah, so little things,
Whereas in like Silicon Valley, like if you want to, even in our case, but this happens all the time there, like acquisitions, investments, like new fundraising rounds, right? I mean, like the entire acquisition of YouTube was in 72 hours. It was talking with Yahoo. It was talking with Google multiple times, and it's just going down the street, going to the same restaurant 3 times to actually talk to these companies, and then to do all the actual paperwork and to be able to make that announcement on a Monday after a weekend of work. Like, you can't do that from Taiwan. No matter how successful that company is, to be able to try to actually do and try to sell the company, try to, for fundraising, there's a whole sandhill road where you just keep driving down this road, and every block you're going down, you're seeing another top VC in the world. And so, in one afternoon, you can actually make a lot of, you can present that deck multiple times. Whereas here, if you wanted to do something, you're going to have to fly over there. You're going to have to fly to Singapore. You're going to have to fly to Silicon Valley to do it.
Do you feel any it's always SF, Silicon Valley, Taipei. What about like the rest of Southeast Asia? Can Taiwan be used as like next Singapore to be like a hub to also kind of try to connect through partnerships or through investment through other Southeast Asia hubs? Have you researched or thought anything on that?
Well, I've only lived here and still measured in months, like 18 months or so. My read is that of all the countries here, if I were just trying to evaluate where it is best to create a company, where it is best where you're going to get the most amount of support from the government for the company, for the most amount of support from the government when it comes to moving your family to like resituating, like Singapore is far better than any of the other countries that we've looked at in Asia. And to like definitely put Taiwan on that map if you're actually comparing the two.
I think that's good. I think like right now, because of, we've mentioned all these situations, right now we need sort of service providers, sort of people that can help with the language. Also with a lot of these paperwork, there's a lot of, traditions that aren't really that open to international people with like, the stamping and all of these things. I think these are things that are going to come, which is the next step. On a different note, I'm wondering, because I was in a lockdown in Paris for about 4 months, like in a complete not leaving my apartment. And I'm still talking to people a year later that have never left their house. So I think like mental health is such a huge issue. And I think all of us or all of you have an experience that, and a lot of people you see, at all the nightclubs, all these people from XLF that I feel have been let out of a bubble or of a thing. So I don't know what's going to happen. Do you feel like what is Taiwan going to be known as a safe kind of bubble, or what are people going to take from that from Taiwan, or how do you relate to those people?
I think we're only in terms of the overall impact of COVID, we're at the beginning of it, right? I mean, I think on the mental side of things, we're just starting to see that, but you start seeing that on, Facebook groups. You see that on a lot of these real-time chats where people are talking about like that, they're losing their jobs, their kids are, they think you can only spend so many months, day after day after day, where you're 24/7 at home with your family. And so, I mean, I think even when the vaccines are out there, even when all that is through, we're going to start seeing the next phase of what COVID is doing.
Interesting. Let's go back to Draco, Jack. So, how do you see AI like disrupting other industries, and how can like AI and investing? Can you say something about towards how retail people can get involved or be more advanced or educated in this area?
Well, I think using AI to do investments will be the future trend. And we're seeing companies providing platforms for investors to subscribe to use their more basic models of AI to help them decide on their, which investment to invest in. And I think AI will be a big part of investment, but the human factor, it's how to, for the human to know when to use the AI, that's the most important. So if you have to, I think that the AI will never 100% replace the human. I think the best combination is like the human, plus AI. That's always going to be more powerful.
I think that the next step in AI is sort of like not knowing that you're being affected by AI or even blockchain technology. So, Steve, I'm wondering if like what should we look forward to? Like, some kind of funny story where you see AI working in the future that we're not even going to realize, like from brushing your teeth or checking the weather or like the temperature of a room. What are your thoughts there?
Well, I mean, I think when it comes to AI, what's happened since about 2012, 2013 has been astronomical progress versus what we thought was possible. I mean, during the 70s and 80s, we thought that AI was moving in leaps and bounds, and that it hit like when I was going to school, there was no way that we were seeing the way that you were actually writing the AI to program and build in the Go computer AI-based Go player, chess player. There was no way that it was doing the natural language, and there was no way that it was doing the actual machine learning that everything out there is doing now. And I think it was finally a time where software was actually catching up with the hardware progress that we were making. With everything with the cloud computing, all of a sudden you actually have the cloud AI based background to be able to integrate all that together. And I think, we saw like a revolution of like AI starting from about 2012, 2013, and it's just continuing on. And everything, the devices that you're buying now with $50, $100, you're plugging that stuff into your house, and it's plugged into the amount of data centers that thing is plugged into is more than anything you could have had 15 years ago.
Cool. So we're excited about a lot of your other projects, Steve, especially me and my group friends and like Theta Protocol projects like this. But I'm just wondering, like, how do you choose projects that you want to get involved with? And then the second to that is for all of these up and emerging entrepreneurs, startups, how can what topics are you excited to be involved with, and how can they reach out to you?
Well, I mean, I think fundamentally coming from the Silicon Valley, but specifically moving out to Silicon Valley in '99, the company that I joined out there at the time was PayPal, and I was there through the dot-com crash, through the acquisition, through all the sort of battle that it had with eBay at the time, and I left PayPal in 2005 to start YouTube. But I think what's interesting through that PayPal period is the number of people that also were working at PayPal. Elon Musk was there, Peter Thiel was there, David Sachs was there, Jeremy Stoppelman, guys behind LinkedIn, and all the other co-founders of YouTube I met the first day that I was there. And I think it's interesting to see that many of these people, when they've gone to create other funds, other startups, it wasn't necessarily that they had the right idea on day one when they created their new startup. But I think it's part of the having that experience, having that history to be able to wade through, how do you make the right decisions about the changes that you're going to make? When do you listen to the end user? When do you not listen to the end user? I think these are the things where I prioritize in when I'm investing in people, that individuals, and specifically the experience that they've had in the past in this entrepreneur role, rather than, I looking through the deck in terms of the specific idea during that seed round and Series A round, which is normally the round that I participate in as an angel investor. It's looking at the people, and that's what matters more than the idea.
Interesting. And what about with your work with Jack? What's the next thing that you guys are going to work together on, whether it be business wise or casual, or what is your what's your kind of friendship about? Next steps, Jack.
Well, besides business, we do golf. We do a lot of other casual, more relaxing activities.
We met through golf.
You guys met it through golf.
In Taiwan or in
Taiwan?
California?
In Taiwan.
In Taiwan.
Oh, since you guys in Taiwan, okay, we should speak Mandarin.
But hold on. I think I asked you before, you didn't answer. So what was your
that?
handicap?
Steve was like, "What's the handicap?" Steve's a really good golfer. Yeah.
Oh wow.
Steve 可以讲中文吗？因为这边有好多台湾的观众跟听众，你的中文好不好？
还可以啊，试试看吧。
今天是下午茶时间呢，我们准备了很多吃的，但是你刚刚说吃很饱。
我觉得 Steven 的中文比我好，可是我觉得其实 no， 我觉得我的中文比他好。
我觉得 Steve 的比较好，
因为我一个 sentence 我会用整个中文去讲完这个 sentence， 然后我可能就一个句就会是英文，他是会 like half of the sentence in English， 然后其他的会 like 用中文去 end it。
这个比较厉害啊，
这个厉害。
这个一半一半是最厉害的。
I think we should coin this a term like ABC Taiwanese and add some 台语在里面，混一起。
Because you have to master 这两个东西 to switch it around. Right? Yeah.
Do people get confused? I think I confuse people sometimes, like which some words come to me in English first and some in Chinese. Is that how it works? That's how you're.
Most of my interviews, they do start in Chinese, but once it starts getting into English, it's hard to go back. I can't.
对啊。
I'm trying to like switch to the Mandarin mode right now.
And I think especially when you start getting into, when you start getting into more of the legal and technical, and when you start answering those kind of questions, it's a lot harder to be able to kind of flip back and forth between the two.
Yeah, my friend was like, Amber, if you're talking about anything serious in Chinese, we just won't take you seriously. I'm sorry. 你的中文太差。
但我觉得 Steve 的中文蛮好的耶。
有进步了，来了一年半了。
1年半。
你的小孩有在学吗？在学校学？
Yeah, 他们是去那个什么 TAS, right? The American School. So
美国学校。
I think 在那个TAS 几年以前的时候，他们是 they couldn't speak.
Yeah,
they weren't allowed to speak Chinese, right?
现在都有Chinese class.
哦，真的吗
Yes, yeah.
Oh, nice. 对啊。
所以他们会学中文。
Yeah.
Do you think when you speak or learning Mandarin is very hard for you? I know writing is hard for a lot of people.
Well, I mean, I think I moved to the U.S. when I was 8 years old, entering 3rd grade. And 当然现在听的我在讲英文的话，英文是比我中文好嘛，但是英文是 actually 我的 second language.
但是你中文其实我觉得讲得蛮好的，
讲得很好，
我觉得讲得很好。对。
Well, 我是觉得 like 8 years old, that's the latest that you can actually really, that's pushing the limits on the latest that you can move and still be able to grasp a language as if it were your dominant original language. And so when my older one, he moved back when he was 9 years old.
Okay.
And he's, it's TAS isn't enough. 我们有再请一个老师来了. They need more than just 50 minutes, 4 days a week to be able to learn the second language.
So I feel like when you were in Silicon Valley, you were sort of like, sort of founder, you were Steve Chen YouTube or Steve Chen advisor, and now you're like Taiwan Steve Chen celebrity poster child of like, the future of Taiwan. What are cultural differences, or what are your thoughts on that? How does it? Yeah, 你可以说中文，你觉得有什么感觉？有什么 feel？
I mean, in Silicon Valley, like our neighbors, it's like everybody is in tech. Everybody, like our neighbors, on one side was the founder, CEO, ex-CEO of Logitech. On the other side was the Stanford doctor that invented the birth control pill.
Wow.
Like, well,
Chrissy, can I get some?
Thank you.
no, you have like Omika Sani, like again, like the board member of Twitter, like just on the other side, like that's what Silicon Valley is like, and so I mean the difference between that versus Taiwan is that I don't have the guy that started the birth control pill.
Steve is a superstar in Taiwan.
Have you lost some freedoms that typically go align with that? Like, do you feel pressure, Jack, or?
Well, 我们会去 vacation 嘛 together 嘛 so
Oh,
like
that's
不管去哪里 we go like with the families and the kids 嘛
对
so you be like really random place 就是那种没有人的地方 all of a sudden 会有一个 family 突然 recognize Steve and then 要过来跟他拍照要 Steve 抱着他的小孩 right so 你可以摸一下我们的小孩
signing autographs. Can I have your autograph too?
Yeah, do you want Chinese?
Why not?
Oh my god.
Why not?
That'll look like a kindergartner.
练习你的中文名字 one more time. 所以现在 Jeff 你像你的经纪人 your agent.
well it's interesting 啊跟他 go on trips 的时候 it's pretty interesting 就是你常常跟他在一起的时候你就会看到旁边的人开始拿他们的手机 Google 确定是不是他 so 每次 so when that happens so I just like we were like watching basketball game the other day 然后 like 然后前面的人就开始往后面看然后就开始在滑手机我就说 Steve I think they recognize you they're just trying to double check 然后他每个动作一定都是先 Google 然后看一下再点头真的是他然后之后的 next half an hour 就会一直转头一直看 so like there was one time 我们去I think it was like 垦丁 was it 垦丁
I think you should,
yeah like 我们在老街 like 走路的时候 like there's like 2-3 like 人一直在看 like doing the Google thing right now I actually walked over 我说要不要我帮你们拍照 yeah they got so scared 我去拍他们了我 like hey excuse me 他说怎么了我说你要不要我帮你们拍照
Taiwanese people are super polite, right? That's
yeah 然后他们 they were kind of scared for like the first couple seconds 然后就说可以吗they got pretty excited yeah so that was pretty fun
I think that's pretty rare to also reach that you have this reach with like Kaohsiung, Kending, or like you're actually becoming like a positive role model for even these smaller town like children growing up. I think that's very cool though.
I mean, I think I think fundamentally the reason for coming to Taiwan, well, I would juggle that. I mean, partially it's to I thought it was important for Asian American kids to actually have spent some quality time living in Asia. I mean, you see all the problems that you have in the U.S. for Asian Americans right now, and I think it's good just for their upbringing, whatever their lifestyle is, to be able to know what it's like to actually be here. But I mean, part of it also is the reason why we chose Taiwan. There are a lot of other countries in Asia to go to. It's because I was born here, and I think one of those things is you scratch your head with all the years that you come back every year, and you see like there's a lot of successful Taiwanese Americans. It's more than just a trans-Pacific flight that makes you successful. Like, what is the difference between?
Was this always a thought that you had, or just recently in your in your career, like when you were young? Did you always want to explore your heritage to your family? Is it because your family lived here now, or is it when you became like when you made your mark in your industry, in your career, that you wanted to come back? Like, when did you have this?
No, I think like it wasn't. I mean, certainly like during the days of PayPal or YouTube, like this wasn't anything that was swimming in my This was more about, I think, after 20 years there in the Bay Area and having kind of had an opportunity to juggle just about everything once. And certainly, like, it doesn't mean that, like, there's no opportunity to start another company or make another investment or whatever it is in Silicon Valley now. I think just this is more personal decision to say, like, having a choice, say, between creating another company that is successful. One, it probably is not going to be anywhere near as big and as expensive as what YouTube is. But two, like, compared to having the opportunity to potentially help out Taiwan in whatever way, I don't know how still. But if you can actually create some of the potential entrepreneurs here from actually making them from potential and realizing their potential, like I think that's something that you just can't do no matter how many more years I stay in Silicon Valley.
So let's just say, like, per se, you were starting a company here. Would you hire a local team? Would you bring on, or would you like encourage other people to come back and join your team? Or how would you with your own start? How would you form that?
Having more hands-on experience, I do think that on an individual basis, individual contributor basis, like the top engineers that you're going to find in startups here, they're comparable to the best engineers that I knew from Silicon Valley. This is just comparing an engineer to an engineer. The Google offices here is one of the most number of engineers in all the international offices for Google. I think where it starts getting problematic, the hurdles are actually, I think, as you start moving up that ladder, you start getting to the founders, the C-level executives, like the guys that are making the big product decisions, the actual big corporate decisions. Like, unless you have that experience, unless you actually, have that hands-on experience, having gone through that a few times, it's hard to try to learn that here without actually being immersed in it.
Mm-hmm. I have one question because, I'm from my background being half-breed, growing up in Canada. What are your suggestions to families that want to make the trip back with their children? Do you see that the culture and like the living lifestyle for your children is not, let's not say better here, but do you want them to still have access to like a U.S. upbringing, or is that your plan going back and forth, or do you feel like what are the pros and cons for like families and for children being raised here? I think you can both answer that.
Well, I'll say that's a difficult question. I mean, I don't think there's a right answer to that. Which is like, what's part of that education in the U.S. or in the West that you don't get from the typical education that you would get here, the typical upbringing that you get here. And it's a hard one, what that I'm still trying to find the answers to.
Because there was such a, 10, 20 years ago when I was growing up, everyone was like, oh, you have to go overseas for high school. You have to go overseas for college. But now, when we're in this generation, they're like, well, I want my children to experience. We have to move back. So there's a lot of, so what do you feel about that, or what are your thoughts?
Well, I think really depends on your question, because when you talk about moving back, are you talking about going to local schools in Taiwan, or going to international schools such as TAS or TES?
Mm-hmm.
That makes a really big difference. Like for my kids, they go to TAS, and then during summertime we would take them back to the US maybe for a month or two.
Yeah.
So they actually get to see the world. They get to see US. They get to spend a month or two there, and it's actually they grow this second home thought of the feeling of when they go back to the U.S. So when it's totally different when you move to Taiwan and go to the local school, because I wouldn't be able to answer that part. But
I think in general we're just all of us, each of us individually is moving to more of a global mindset. So it's not only just going to be either Taiwan or either California, but it's going to be Taiwan and Southeast Asia and other Europe. So I think there's we're all moving towards that.
Yeah.
Steve， 我自己有私心，我要问你问题。你来台湾了，你喜欢台湾的什么食物？
I think the obvious things I miss from probably from California. That you would have every day, like the avocados and Mexican food and but I'm gonna say like the food in Taiwan is awfully good and awfully convenient, awfully easy, awfully cheap to get.
Yes.
Like but I mean it's in certain categories. Although I've heard like again I've only been here for a year and a half. I've heard that a lot's evolved into more international foods recently, but like Korean food is, I think the Korean food here in probably not as good as LA, but it's better than anything you can find in the Bay Area.
Oh, actually, we have like Korean fried chicken today.
While I was researching your previous interviews, this might be, you might not want me to bring this up, but I saw a video of you eating burritos. Do you know what I'm referring to?
Yeah.
It was like an early day.
We were reenacting, I think, what happened at Denny's. It was, Chad and I were doing it. Yeah.
So maybe next time I'll bring you burritos.
Mexican food. It's hard to get the pinto beans. It's hard to get the actual meats here.
I do like I have a lot of social clubs that I've started. Here's my plug. I do like golf social on Sunday. I do like Taco Tuesdays. So, maybe next time we'll do a Taco Tuesday. What are your thoughts on like TTA? We're both kind of based there and working. How do you like it?
I think TTA is also something that is transforming along with the kind of the users that they're trying to service in some way, right? I mean, I think TTA is supposed to be trying to help out either these incubators, these small funds, and until recently, individual entrepreneurs. This was something that's just changed this year, and that change was a result of all the people coming back with the gold card. And I think that now the entire fourth floor that you see at TTA, it's all people that are from Silicon Valley, that are all people that have moved here in the last 6 months. But you didn't have that at all. Like we couldn't get a desk we were the exception that you couldn't get a desk at TTA it's just a independent sort of self-started startup. You had to go through another incubator or another VC to do it.
So I think we're running out of time here, but I really want to really thank our guests for being here. And there's so many firsts here. So on a closing note, let's just what would you like to share? How can we help you? What can we do next? Can we, make your custom burrito? Can we help you do, plan a golf tournament? What are your thoughts? What are you excited about? What can we do that's really fun? We like having fun here.
We should go golfing with Steve and watch his golf stream.
Okay, the next one, here's something for you guys, okay? Since you guys are into golf, 我们准备了 polo shirts 送给你们。
Man, golf has come up so much in this conversation. Wait until you see my swing. You're going to be so disappointed in that
I
drive.
hope I'm not going to be disappointed because expectations are here. And wait till you see my swing, to be honest, because I've been working on it.
然后你之前跟我说你吃的很 healthy， 那我准备了沉香茶 ，It's really good for you， 就是希望你会喜欢。Good tea, it means like Taiwanese kind of spirit.
What is it? What is the translation? What is it?
沉香 Englewood.
Yeah,
Englewood.
Yeah. Cool.
I thought it was like Chen, like Chen.
That's
like
for my family.
Chen sausage or something.
Yeah, it's really good. It's a very special tea. People call it like the golden tea.
Cool. So I'm really happy that you guys have this friendship and this partnership. I'm really happy you guys have crescented this experience for us. And yeah, hope to see you on the golf course. Or no, I'm actually looking forward to.
I hope to see some like Wall Street or something.
I was going to take that back. I'm hoping that next time you'll have an update for us on your startup that you're doing, or your investment that you're doing, or that your hedge fund.
Next time we should go to the golf course with them and see how they swing, right?
No,
You can see if I'm lying or not.
No, on our when we next meet, I hope you all have success and that you have a success story for us regarding both of you. I hope we can help with that. Thank you guys.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
也谢谢今天我们正成集团提供了这么棒的设备，然后带给我们可以感受这些新的录影的东西。谢谢 ，Thank you everyone.
Thank you.